My phone lit up at exactly 11:46 p.m. One new message from Mom. I was halfway through folding laundry. Towels I'd washed, dishes already done, bills scheduled for the next morning. My body was tired, but my mind was used to surviving on fumes. I tapped open the text. Just married, a third-class coworker party popper ring, clinking glasses. Vegas was amazing. You're pathetic, by the way. That was it. No hello. No explanation. Just a casual betrayal, followed by an insult I'd been hearing since I was 12. My hands didn't tremble. I didn't gasp. I didn't cry. I just stared. My mother was halfway across the country marrying a man she barely knew, and she took the time to call her daughter, her only daughter, pathetic. I set the phone down gently. In the background, the fridge buzzed. The ceiling fan clicked. The house, my house, was quiet, peaceful, until I remembered what my dad used to say every time I asked for anything. You're a burden, Layla. A walking expense. And I remembered every time I paid their rent, every meal delivery I sent, every card I opened in my name for their emergencies, every phone bill, medical copay, and surprise Uber. They drained me like it was their right. And now, she was in Vegas with a man I didn't know, while mocking me from her honeymoon suite. So I replied, one word, cool. Then I opened my laptop, logged into the family's financial ecosystem, the one I had built, funded, and maintained. And I started pulling plugs. Credit cards deactivated. Online subscriptions canceled. Phone lines reassigned. Utilities removed from autopay. Smart locks on the house reset. Emergency access to my backup accounts revoked. I didn't hesitate. This wasn't revenge. This was an audit. I left one card active, the one I used for groceries. I stared at it for a moment, then closed it too. And I slept that night for the first time in years without a weight on my chest. Until morning came. And with it a knock at the door. 3 firm bangs. I opened it, expecting maybe a neighbor, a package. Instead, 2 police officers. Uniformed. Straight-faced. Miss Layla Gray? One asked. I nodded, calm. Yes. We received a report regarding identity theft and unauthorized lock change. I raised an eyebrow. Of course. Of course, she'd weaponized the system the second she lost control. I didn't panic. I simply stepped aside, motioned them in, and walked to the drawer where I kept every file. Ownership documents. Card statements. Utility bills. All under my name. Every single one. They flipped through the folders. One of them let out a slow whistle. This all yours. I nodded once. Always has been. He looked at his partner. This is clean. They left 10 minutes later with a final question. Would you like to press charges for fraud? I smiled. Not yet. My name is Layla Gray. And from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Because the night my mother married a stranger and called me pathetic was the same night I quietly evicted my entire past. I wasn't always cold. They made me that way. There was a time I would have done anything for my parents, not because they earned it, but because I believed that love was supposed to be unconditional, even if it was lopsided, even if it bled me dry. But being a daughter in our household wasn't love. It was labor. Dad used to say things like, "You're the reason we can't have a real life. If it weren't for you, we'd be traveling. Free." Mom, meanwhile, preferred her insults dressed in faux sympathy. You try, I know you do, but you're just not impressive like your cousins. I learned early that my value came from usefulness. So, I became useful. At 14, I started working after school to help with groceries. At 18, I was handling their utility bills because Dad forgot passwords and Mom didn't have time. By 22, the house was in my name, the cars co-signed by me, and the debt they racked up was shadowed under my credit. They didn't say thank you. They said, "It's your duty." I didn't live. I sustained them. When Mom lost her job and Dad got injured, I drained my savings to keep them from being evicted. When they wanted new phones, I opened a family plan. When Mom needed a dentist, my account. When Dad forgot the mortgage payment again, I sold my laptop to cover it. And every time I thought maybe, this time, they'd acknowledge me, they praised someone else. Neighbors' kids. My cousins. Random women they saw on TV. Anyone but me. They loved the help. They hated the helper. I was the default emergency contact. The ATM. The emotional punching bag. The burden that never stopped carrying their weight. And even when I tried to break away, when I suggested they apply for assistance, take on part-time work, sell the second car, I was met with, "You're selfish. You want us to struggle? After all we gave you?" What they gave me was trauma disguised as tradition. What they taught me was how to disappear in plain sight. So I stayed. I paid. I endured. Because some part of me, buried deep under exhaustion and fear, still hoped maybe they'd see me. Maybe they'd finally say, "Thank you. We're proud of you." But then Mom texted me from a casino in Vegas after marrying a man she barely knew and told me I was pathetic. That was the moment I realized they were never going to see me because they needed me invisible. They needed someone to carry the guilt of their bad decisions, to finance their lives, and to hate herself enough to keep doing it. And when I stopped, they called the cops. Because in their world, love was never the goal, control was. But now, I wasn't a burden. I was a bill they couldn't pay anymore. The thing about being the invisible one, the helper, the fixer, the quiet one, is that no one ever asks how the lights stay on. They just assume someone else paid the bill. That someone was always me. I had set up the systems slowly over years. Not because I was trying to control them, but because no one else was willing to take responsibility. At first, it was just their utilities. Then their phone lines. Then the shared family Amazon account, Hulu, Netflix, and grocery delivery. When Dad's car broke down, I co-signed the lease. When Mom's laptop died, I financed a new one. They couldn't qualify for anything anymore, not after the credit card chaos they left in the early 2000s. So I quietly stepped in. Every time. I opened accounts under my name, took calls on their behalf, paid bills they forgot existed. And when I started earning enough to breathe a little, I set up an automated financial safety net. One they didn't even know had my name behind it. I called it the invisible engine in my budget planner. It looked like this. $650 per month. Rent assistance. $125 per month. Phone plans. $300 per month. Groceries. $50 per month. Recurring medical copays. $75 per month. Mom's monthly shopping subscription. $90 per month. Dad's Spotify and random online courses he never finished. They thought these things were just working because the universe aligned in their favor. They believed entitlement was a virtue. What they didn't realize, I had built their entire stability on my back and never once asked for recognition. All I wanted was respect. But instead, they gave credit to everyone but me. When the water kept running, they thanked the landlord. When their phones stayed connected, they thanked the company. When groceries arrived, they thought Mom had ordered them, even though I'd placed every single delivery. I once overheard her saying, "I'm the one keeping this family afloat." She didn't know her card had declined for 6 months straight. I was the hidden pillar, the one holding up the temple while they danced on the roof. And they mocked me for being less successful, for not having a real partner, for giving small gifts while they flaunted secondhand praise. But here's the thing about pillars. You never notice them until they're gone. So when I canceled everything, it wasn't out of rage. It was out of revelation. They had built their entire world on a lie, that I didn't matter, that I was disposable, that they could humiliate me, insult me, replace me with a drunken Vegas marriage, and I'd still keep the lights on. But this time, I flipped the switch. And as their world went dark, mine lit up, because for the first time, I was no longer hiding behind my kindness. I was standing inside it, with boundaries, and a locked door they'd never be given a key to again. The knock came just after 9 a.m. 3 sharp raps. Firm. Professional. I opened the door to find 2 police officers standing on my porch. Uniforms crisp. Expressions unreadable. "Miss Layla Gray?" "Yes." "We've had a report filed by your mother, Susan Gray. She's claiming unauthorized access was used to seize funds, cancel accounts, and change the locks on what she's calling her legal residence. I blinked. No panic. Just quiet disbelief wrapped in something colder. She'd called the cops on me. After years of draining me like a resource, after mocking me from her Vegas honeymoon suite, she thought she could still control the narrative. I motioned for them to step inside. They followed. "This will take a few minutes," the taller one said gently. "Do you mind providing documentation of account ownership and property rights?" "Not at all." I opened the hallway cabinet, my quiet arsenal. A color-coded file system that would have made a lawyer weep with joy. House deed in my name. Bank statements. Credit card contracts. Screenshots of every recurring charge I had canceled. Transaction logs linked directly to my accounts. Receipts. Payment schedules. Even a notarized letter from 3 years ago when they transferred their rent to me temporarily and never took it back. I laid them all on the coffee table in perfect order. The officers glanced at each other. Impressed. "You run a pretty tight ship," one said. I offered a humorless smile. "Someone had to." The other asked, "Did you give them access to these cards and services willingly?" "I did." "And when did you revoke it?" "The moment they decided I was pathetic and told me I didn't matter." He flipped through the files again. "All these are in your name?" "Every one." He paused. "She said you were squatting in her property." I stood, walked to the wall, pointed to the framed deed. "My name. Paid off. Owned. I have every bank statement to prove it." The first officer exhaled and closed the folder. "No charges. We're sorry to bother you, ma'am. It looks like you were just cleaning house." I followed them to the door. As one stepped off the porch, he turned back. "You could file a restraining order, you know." She filed a false report. I looked down at the paperwork still clutched in my hands, then shook my head. "No need. I already locked the door on her the first time. The rest is just noise." They nodded and left. I closed the door slowly behind them, and then I sat in silence. Not trembling, not raging, just still. Because justice hadn't come with handcuffs. It had come with proof. And it had finally spoken louder than all the years of insults and manipulation. I was no longer the child who begged to be seen. I was the woman who documented everything. I didn't just walk away. I backed up the exit. Because while they had underestimated me for years, I had learned how to prepare for the moment they would strike back. And when they did, all they found was a fortress they could no longer enter. They say narcissists don't just fall apart privately. They perform their collapse. And sure enough, my mother took her meltdown to Facebook before the police even left my driveway. A new post went up with a grainy photo of her looking devastated in front of a cheap motel door. Imagine raising your daughter, giving her everything, and she turns around and locks you out of your own life. I raised a cold-hearted stranger. Broken heart. Within minutes, the sympathies started pouring in. Cousins I hadn't spoken to in years commented, "I'm so sorry, Aunt Susan. How could she do that to you? You don't deserve this. You're the sweetest woman I know." Even Renee chimed in with, "Unbelievable. I thought Layla was better than this." I didn't reply, but someone else did. A friend from college who had seen everything firsthand. She posted a long, calm reply under my mother's post. "Susan, please clarify. Are you talking about the same daughter who paid your rent for 2 years? Who funded your phone plan, covered your groceries, and kept your life functioning while you called her useless behind her back?" The thread exploded. One by one, people who had been in the background started speaking up. A former neighbor who remembered my parents yelling at me through the walls. My old boss who used to let me clock out early so I could pick up their meds. Even my landlord who confirmed who'd been on the lease the whole time. And then came the screenshots. Someone leaked the text. The one for my mom. "Just married a third-class coworker. You're pathetic, by the way." Suddenly, the sympathy shifted. Fast. Now the comment said, "You texted her that and expected her to keep helping you? Y'all really pushed the one person keeping you afloat off the cliff. Layla deserved better than this. I hope she never answers the phone again." My mother went radio silent. She deleted the post. Renee deactivated her entire profile. And my dad? He didn't say anything. He never did. Just quietly faded into whatever motel corner they now called home. I didn't gloat. I didn't share a gotcha post or go live or drop receipts. I just logged off. Because I had nothing to prove. They had built their entire image on lies, while I was building their survival on sacrifice.
And now?
The mask had slipped. Later that week, I got a call from a podcast producer.
"We read the thread," she said.
"You're not the only daughter going through this. Would you share your story?" I hesitated, then said yes. The episode aired the following Monday.
I didn't drag names.
I didn't rage. I didn't humiliate. I just told the truth. About what it feels like to give until your veins run dry, and still be told you're not enough. The episode went viral.
Emails flooded in.
Women, men, teenagers, adults with gray hair and decades of silence behind them. Each one saying the same thing. Your story is mine. That night, I stared at the quiet glow of my phone, the notifications blinking softly. And I whispered, "You're not pathetic, Layla." Because the truth had finally spoken louder than their insults ever could. And the world, it finally listened. I didn't expect peace to feel so empty at first. No one was calling me about unpaid rent. No one was texting me passive-aggressive reminders about food deliveries. No one was barging into my space with loud complaints disguised as conversation. There was just silence. And healing. I spent the first week sleeping more than I had in years. The house stayed clean. My calendar wasn't a battleground of emergency errands for people who never said thank you. And for the first time, I asked myself, what do I want? The answer wasn't dramatic. I wanted a better mattress. To take yoga in the mornings. To stop eating freezer meals while everyone else dined on my dime. So I started small. I updated my resume. Applied for a remote position at a digital strategy firm.
Got it.
I removed every shared login from my life. Even the petty ones, Spotify, streaming apps, delivery services. I created a folder called Freedom. Every cancellation confirmation went in it. I painted my bedroom walls a soft gold. Got rid of the old couch where my mother used to sit and judge me. Replaced it with a beanbag and a bookshelf. Then came something bigger. I launched a blog. Not for drama. For daughters like me, the quiet ones, the tired ones, the too sensitive ones who spent years being useful and never once being valued. I called it the reset button. And it took off faster than I imagined. Within a month, I had readers from all over the country. Women writing and saying things like, "I thought I was the only one. You put into words what I never could. Thank you for reminding me I'm allowed to walk away." It grew into a community. We shared stories. We gave each other permission. We taught each other how to draw boundaries. And, most importantly, we celebrated every little win. Canceling a shared card. Saying no without guilt. Sleeping through the night without checking your phone for emergencies that weren't yours to fix.
My past wasn't gone, but it no longer owned me.
One day, I got a DM from a familiar name. Renee. Just one line. He left her. She has nowhere to go.
I stared at it for a long time.
No apology. No explanation. Just expectation. It made me realize something deeper. They didn't miss me. They missed the version of me they could control. The one who paid quietly, obeyed quickly, and didn't question who mattered most in the room. I didn't reply. Instead, I posted a new entry on the blog. The power of no.
You don't need to justify it. You don't need to yell it.
You don't need to explain why you've reached the end of your giving.
Just say it.
Mean it. And then watch what peace actually looks like. Because no is not an attack. It's a boundary. I closed my laptop that night, sipped tea in my gold-painted room, and smiled. Because the person they used to manipulate
was gone.
In her place stood someone they'd never meet again.
Me.
Some people destroy themselves quietly. My mother? She did it loudly. A month after her text from Vegas, her fairy tale imploded. He wasn't just a third-class coworker. He was a walking catastrophe. Turns out he had a record fraud, bounce checks, 3 ex-wives, 2 warrants in another state.
She didn't check.
She didn't care. Because she wasn't marrying love. She was marrying control over someone. She just didn't realize she had no leverage left. He drained what was left of her savings, used her credit cards until they flatlined, then disappeared. No goodbye. No note. Just silence. And my mother, who had spent her life tearing me down, was now broke, abandoned, and sleeping on an air mattress at some distant cousin's place who felt too bad to say no. I didn't hear about it directly. I heard from a distant aunt who called, whispered like it was a scandal. Your mom's not doing well. He left. She's not the same. Not the same?
No.
She was finally seeing herself, without the daughter she used as a mirror to project all her shame onto. And my father? He'd already been spiraling before she left.
No job.
No health insurance. No savings. Once my support stopped, his world collapsed faster than hers. He tried moving in with a former coworker. Got kicked out for being entitled and lazy. Renee went silent. She was done pretending to care once the spotlight faded. The people they mocked, ignored, or used had all quietly walked away. Now, they were alone. And the best part? Not because I turned anyone against them, but because they showed everyone exactly who they were once I stepped away. One day, while scrolling online, I saw a post. It was an old photo of my mom and her Vegas husband, captioned, "Love is blind." The comment beneath it? From one of the ex-wives. No, honey, love isn't blind. But desperation sure is. I closed the app. Not out of cruelty. Out of finality. They had always laughed when I struggled. They made jokes when I worked late. Rolled their eyes when I said no. Scoffed at my dreams. Dismissed my exhaustion. And now, they were living inside a version of the very chaos they'd once dumped on me. Only this time, I wasn't their lifeline. I was the example they warned others not to underestimate. At a small event hosted by my blog's followers, someone asked, "If your parents apologized tomorrow, would you forgive them?" I smiled gently.
I already have, I said. Gasps.
But here's the thing, forgiveness doesn't come with keys. They can heal. I can heal. But that doesn't mean I ever have to let them walk through my door again. And the room clapped. Not for drama, but because they understood. Forgiveness is not an invitation. It's closure, and you get to decide who stays closed. A year later, almost to the day, I stood at my front door watering a line of lavender I'd planted along the fence. The gate creaked open. I didn't need to look up to know who it was. I could feel her before I saw her. My mother. Thinner now. Duller. Her once perfect hair tied in a messy bun. Sunglasses hiding what pride couldn't anymore. Her steps hesitant, like someone approaching a stranger's home. Which, in every way that mattered, she was. I didn't speak. Neither did she. Not at first. Then, finally. I didn't know where else to go. I set the watering can down. Silence hung between us like fog. Then she said it. The one word she'd used on me more than anyone else ever had. "I'm sorry." She said it like it was the first time she'd ever practiced the taste of humility in her mouth. I was cruel. I thought I was strong, but I was just angry. At life. At myself. And I took it out on the only person who kept showing up. Her voice cracked. I stayed quiet. She tried again. "You didn't deserve it, Layla. You never did." And then came the ask.
Of course it did.
"I just need a place to land."
Just for a little while.
"I have no one." I looked at her. Not the woman I feared growing up. Not the voice that mocked me in the dark. But a tired stranger trying to knock on a door she burned down herself. I stepped forward, slow, calm. You don't get to come back just because you're ready. Healing doesn't work like that. Trust doesn't grow where rot was planted. Tears slipped behind her glasses. "I'm not angry anymore," I said gently. "But I'm not open either." She nodded, not because she agreed, but because, for the first time, she had no argument left. I handed her a paper from my back pocket, an address, a women's resource center, a contact name. "They'll help you get on your feet. But this." I motioned to the door behind me. "My door? This stays closed." Her lip quivered, but she didn't fight it. She just whispered, "Thank you," and turned back to the gate. As it clicked shut behind her, I finally let out the breath I didn't realize I'd been holding since I was 13. My son stepped onto the porch behind me, holding 2 mugs of tea. He'd watched the whole thing quietly. "Are you okay?" he asked. I took a sip, looked at the blue sky above our rebuilt home. "Yeah," I said. "Because this time, I didn't let her in." He nodded. We sat together in silence, 2 generations finally safe. They called me pathetic, said I was a burden, used me like a bank with no balance. And when I stopped giving, they called the cops. But I didn't fight with fists. I didn't scream. I just turned off the faucet, changed the locks, and built a life so full of peace. They'd never know how to survive inside it.